In September and December of 2015 and again in October of 2016, Leon and Tanya Trip unsuccessfully attempted to use a hitman more than 3 times to silence their daughter Janelle. But why? The first attempt on Janelle's life was only 5 months after Leon, who was her stepfather, had joined the family in their home after serving 6 years in prison. What exactly was going on in that household that made them want to silence Janelle? It's the duty of the parents to guide and protect their own, but in rare cases, they turn out to be the ones who bring harm to their very own, or even try to hide the evil acts being done to their own. That's the type of case that we're dealing with today, where a young woman goes missing with her stepfather, and the mother lies to cover up the truth about what had really happened to her daughter. Latania Janell Carwell was a young and intelligent black girl who had her entire future ahead of her. She wanted to become a medical doctor.
Janelle was a loving, very intelligent, smart young woman who wanted to be a doctor, who was an honor student.
So she put all her effort into her studies. She wanting to become a medical doctor, going into the medical field, showed the type of person that she was. She wanted to help to save lives. She was an honor student at T.W. Josie Comprehensive High School, where she had loads of awards because of how good she was with her academics. Janelle had a very bright future, So when she went missing in 2017 and eventually turns up deceased, it was very alarming and very annoying, especially considering the circumstances, surrounding her demise. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for stopping by. Consider subscribing to my channel as we dive into this horrifying case. Janelle lived with her mother Tanya Trip and her stepfather Leon Trip, along with her little sister in Richmond County, Augusta, Georgia. Janelle celebrated her 16th birthday party on the 17th of April in 2017. She had a cookout party with her friends at her home. In fact, it was a double celebration on this day because it was also Easter. Now, that night after the celebration had ended, Janelle was winding up everything with her stepfather Leon whilst her mother went to bed early. Okay, so just so we're clear, this is the version of the story that Janelle's mother Tanya told the police when Janelle and her stepfather vanished into thin air. So, according to her, after Janelle and Leon were done with the celebration and, the cleaning up and the arranging of things, Janelle retired to bed for the night and Leon would later, go to bed as well. But in the middle of the night, Leon woke Janelle up around midnight because he wanted to borrow her cell phone. Leon had wanted to help a friend of his whose car had broken down somewhere in the middle of the night, but unfortunately, Leon did not know how to navigate around Janelle's cell phone, enough to use the directions. Basically, he didn't know how to use the Google map. So Leon had to take Janelle to accompany him to Clarksville, South Carolina, so that he could help this friend of his in the middle of the night, about 1 a.m. in the morning. This was what Tanya, Janelle's mother, said happened, right? But the truth of what had happened that night was more horrifying than this. So Leon took Janelle along with him and that didn't make any sense at all. It's kind of difficult to get past the idea that a grown man was taking a 16-year-old along with them on such a ride at such an odd hour of the night to help another grown man. For what? If there was no ulterior motive in any of this, or was it really necessary at all? So the next day when Janelle and Leon didn't return home, her mother Tanya got worried. She hadn't heard from any of them for the entire day. The fact that none of them were answering their phones pretty much added to her panic and her anxiety. So she called the police to file a missing persons report.
Yes, ma'am. I was calling to report a missing person.
Give me 1 second.
I pray to God that they not, but it's not like them not to answer the phone.
She sounded like a distraught mother and wife who is scared and worried she hadn't heard from her husband and her daughter, right? Well, we will find out if Tanya Trip really was a distraught parent. She was very adamant that something sinister must have happened to them. It was unlike them not to be picking up her calls. At least one of them should have answered their cell phone or even called her back. So the police got to work and the search for Janelle and Leon began immediately. Both the community and the police were involved. Everyone wanted to find both father and daughter, well, both stepfather and daughter. For 2 full weeks, there was a full search, ground search and air search too. Tanya even went live on Facebook appealing to the public that she needed her daughter back home. A local pastor even got involved, and she continually had to raise awareness on this case via her, her popular radio show as well. However, the search went on for more than 2 weeks without any success. There was just no single hint or no single lead. Janelle's mother, Tanya, told the public to help her search for her child. She pleaded and even begged for help. She said she was suffering from brain and lung cancer, and that was why she could not go with Leon that night. She was so sad that because of her illness, her daughter was now missing. Her appeal was so heart-wrenching. People felt terrible for her. I mean, who would not be compassionate towards a woman who was terminally ill and whose daughter was missing alongside with her husband? The community responded, and money was raised for reward for anyone that would come up with information that would, help in the case. Now, 2 months after Janelle and Leon's disappearance, over $2,000 had been raised, but still there was no lead. But finally, the police found a lead. In late April of 2017, authorities found Leon's car. His white pickup truck was found about a mile from their home in Augusta. That was confusing, right? They were supposed to have been on their way to South Carolina, right? That wasn't a mile from their home. Why was the truck found just a mile away from their home? Well, the police checked the vehicle thoroughly for any signs of red body fluids or DNA, but they came up empty-handed. That was like a good sign, right? I mean, that means Janelle and Leon hadn't met foul play. So probably the two would still be alive, right? But it was also frustrating not knowing what had become of them. Did they just vanish into thin air? It just didn't make any sense. The authorities went on to look into Janelle and Leon's phone records. They discovered that the two didn't even make it to Clarksville. In fact, they had been nowhere near the area where the supposed friend's car had broken down, as said by Tanya, Janelle's mother. And since there was no evidence that any foul play was involved, according to the evidence from the car they had found, it was really hard to, proceed with investigations without a lead. But strangely, Janelle, who was a teenager and very active on her social media pages, was no longer posting anything. She just went radio silent. So this wasn't making any sense. That was what made this entire situation even more worrisome. That a vibrant teenager who was very active on social media just seems to just drop from the face of the earth just like that. Suddenly, reports started coming in about Leon's sighting. People had come up to say that they had seen Leon Trip. He was spotted in Atlanta, but Janelle was not with him. She was in fact nowhere to be found. These two wasn't making any sense. If Janelle and Leon left home together and hadn't been heard from since, it is expected that when they show up, they will show up together, right? No, that was not the case in this situation. So, with the new information regarding Leon's sighting, the police knew something wasn't right. So, they looked into Leon's past, and they found out that he had a very lengthy criminal past. Leon had assault charges and cruelty to children charges and had served a prison sentence before. He spent like 6 years in prison for his crimes, and gradually everything was now beginning to make a lot of sense. It was now that people got to know that Tanya too knew exactly who her husband was. In fact, she had gotten married to Leon while he was still incarcerated in prison. The two knew each other from high school and had developed a romantic relationship while Leon was incarcerated. So after they had gotten married, Leon moved in with Tanya and her 2 daughters in April of 2015, as soon as he was released from prison, of course. Then in 2017, Janelle just suddenly goes missing while accompanying Leon, her stepfather, somewhere in the middle of the night. Knowing what they knew at the time, the police stopped looking at Leon as a missing person. They in fact now believed that Leon had abducted Janelle, and it was now looking like he will face adoption charges should he be found. The police had every reason to see Leon as a prime suspect in this whole disappearance case. Everything was beginning to make a lot of sense. But Tanya felt otherwise. She defended Leon with all her might. All the time she defended him, and she got really defensive herself. Tanya's behavior was becoming becoming very noticeable. She was avoiding questions and defending Leon and becoming sketchy. Basically, her story seemed not to be adding up anymore, and people were noticing all the red flags and all the loopholes in her stories.
Really? He married to all this prettiness and he gonna run away with our daughter? Come on now. That's stupid.
What Tanya said came off like she was jealous or in competition with her daughter for her man. People caught that, Later on, a call will come in for the police informing them that Leon was again sighted, but this time he was at a U-Haul depot in Atlanta, Georgia. And when the police arrived at the scene, they couldn't believe what their eyes were seeing. Guess who was with Leon? No, it's not what you're thinking. It wasn't Janelle. It was Tanya. Tanya was right there with Leon at the U-Haul depot in Atlanta, right next to him. That was enough to show that something suspicious and conniving was going on. Why were they together? And where was Janelle? If she wasn't with them, then what had they done to her? So both Tanya and Leon were arrested, and Leon was charged with abduction, while Tanya was charged with hindering the apprehension of a criminal. Everyone at this point knew for a fact that this woman had been pretending all along. She most definitely knew much more than she was admitting at the time. She knew what exactly had happened to her daughter, and she was kind of like taking everybody for a fool. She thought that everybody was daft. Tanya in her defense said that meeting Leon was by chance. She said that she had gotten an eviction notice and was moving to Atlanta when she spotted Leon on the road. Like, how daft does this woman think that people were? Does she think that people were fools? What are the odds that on the day that she decides to move to Atlanta, Leon Trip coincidentally just decides to walk along the road? Well, following the arrest, people who had worked really hard to search and look for Janelle began to poke holes in all the stories Tanya had told in the past, and even the ones that she was telling now. And this made them very furious. What type of a woman was this? The police also discovered that the 911 call that Tanya had made earlier was intentionally made to send them searching in the wrong direction. While Tanya had told authorities that Leon and Janelle went to South Carolina, Leon insisted that they were on their way to Atlanta all the while. So you see, they hadn't gotten the story straight from the beginning. It wasn't well thought out, it wasn't well planned out before they did what they did. Or maybe they didn't anticipate that the case would garner so much attention. Or Tanya wanted Leon to have ample time to do whatever he wanted to do with Janelle and then cover his tracks. Why she sent the police on a wild goose chase. When questioned, Leon said that he had given money to Janelle for her to get a bus ride back home to Augusta, and he hadn't seen her since. So basically, he was denying any knowledge of whatever had happened to her. Another information that came out was that Tanya never was sick. She didn't have cancer, no brain cancer, no lung cancer at all. And all of that was fabricated lies. All of that. She fabricated it. All for what? When Leon was thoroughly questioned, he did say that Janelle was no longer alive, but he wouldn't say where her body was. And that was really very frustrating for the police. The police looked everywhere, including wooded areas between Augusta and Atlanta, Georgia, but they didn't find Janelle.
We've been praying that we wouldn't go into a year not knowing where Janelle is.
Then almost a year after she disappeared, on March the 8th, 2018, the police received a call about a human remains that were discovered at the backyard of a home on Garden Camp Road in Augusta, Georgia. And it was confirmed that the remains belonged to Janelle.
We received a phone call from a citizen and had discovered what they believed to be human remains.
Where Janelle was found was not even far from where she lived in Augusta. She was found buried at the back of a home that was uninhabited at the time. Her dental records were what were used to identify her, as not much of her remained. She was already badly decomposed. Leon and Tanya were charged in regards to the demise of their own daughter Janelle. The reason why they even did this in the first place still remains unclear, because it also came to light that this wasn't the first time these two had tried to take Janelle out. In 2018, prosecutors filed a motion requesting permission to introduce evidence of additional criminal acts by Leon and Tanya Trip. They say that the two solicited someone to do away with Janelle during September and December of 2015 and again in October of 2016. So basically, it was established that Leon and Tanya had unsuccessfully attempted to use a hitman more than 3 times to Janelle. But why? Mind you, the first attempt on Janelle's life was only 5 months after Leon had joined them in their home. What exactly was going on in that household that made them want to silence Janelle? For 2 years, they have been actively trying to eliminate her. The motive behind that, still remains unknown and still remains, very sketchy, and police don't exactly know the reason why they wanted to take her out. Following the discovery of Janelle's body, her schoolmates held a vigil for her at the home where her body had been found, and a lot of people turned up for the vigil. Apparently, outsiders cared more for Janelle than the ones who were supposed to care for her and love her and protect her even. A scholarship award has been set up in Janelle's name using the reward money that had been initially raised to at least keep her memory alive. As for those two, Leon faces the capital punishment while Tanya faces second-degree murder charges. And that's pretty much it for today's case, guys. Thank you for watching till the very end, but remember to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up before you leave. And I will see you in the next video.